Hey guys, it's Lazy, and in today's video, I want to talk about my league starter, which is PoE Siphon Ballista. And I can safely say that this is still going to be one of the strongest league starter if you if you are into totem playstyle. This is going to be my third time league start with this, and since the last video, I essentially reworked the whole PoB. I put a lot more effort into doing a more detailed step-by-step leveling process so new player can follow. So definitely check out the PoB if you are interested in that. But first, I want to talk about why you should league start with this build. And PoE Siphon Ballista Totems have really strong power curve. So we play a very simple playstyle, like leveling like any other Templar in the beginnings. But once you will get to level 32 and get through the first ascendancies, you can swap into PoE Siphon Totems, and you can play the same build from level 32 all the way to level 100 without making any swaps or like any awkward transitions. For beginner players, the Ballista Totems or Totems in general playstyle is just extremely good because you can focus on dodging the mechanics and let your totem do all the damage. This means that for mapping, for bossings, just bossing in general is going to be very easy for you if you are a new player and you want to learn the mechanics. We have extremely good early game damage coming from just ascendancies and the PoE Siphon scale. And then we have some really good transitions into the mid game with PoE Siphon of the Archmage, which is also one of the reasons why this is one of the better league starter, because you do a lot of damage on a budget. We utilize some of the very strong early and cheap unique in the early game to do tons of damage, which means that if you bring this character to the maps, you can farm almost any content that you desire beside pinnacle bossings. But this does not mean that you cannot farm any of the new boss. So when I'm saying pinnacle bossings, I mean uber bossings, right? And by the time that you farm up some currency, you can even reroll a bosser yourself. So PoE is just a game where you want to have specialized characters, and PoE Siphon Ballista Totems is a great generic mappings and farming characters. So talk about a great farming characters. This particular build can run almost all map modifiers in the early games. You don't care about map modifiers. You can run no leech, no regens. You can even run Reflect, even though it's not really recommended because your totem will die very often and it can get annoying, but you can run those maps. Which means that you can again farm almost any content in the game. I will quickly touch on that. But otherwise, there's a few caveats to the build that this is not the tankiest build out there. So if you do get hit, you might die, right? So this will have good sustain with agnostics and the regens. So in general, you will actually be fine because the totem playstyle in general is actually pretty safe. Besides being an extremely good T16 8-mod map farmers, this is not really a good T17 farmer just because our build will be squishy by then, and without heavy investment into defense, this is not going to survive in T17. But just a disclaimer before you write off the build, because it's not able to do uber bossings or T17 farming. T17 farmings is not for everyone, especially not for me. And pinnacle bossing sometimes is not even profitable, so just play what you like, and even playing a really good mappers on just farming T16 8-mod map can earn you a tons of currency. So there's that. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what you should be farming on league start. Well, if you're playing this build, you have a lot of options because this is a really good map farmers in the early game, so you can run pretty much any content. A lot of people will be running expeditions. Rituals is a little bit iffy, and Betrayal is going to be popular as well with the Betrayal mechanics rework. So personally, I'll probably going to be farming Betrayal and a little bit mix of the expeditions. I think this build can also do Legions. I think Palseron kind of showcase that this build can have pretty good AoE with Fury Veil. So in my setups, I'm not using Fury Veil, but it's a pretty cheap unique as well. So if you're planning to do Legions, you definitely can look to equip Fury Veil and play this build. I think the meta will change a little bit since last league because we have Mercenary as well. So we'll have to see what I'll want to farm. But if you are playing this build again, it is capable of farming almost all content besides doing pinnacle bossings at league start. And I mentioned before that I have reworked the whole POB and also optimized some of the build and transition as well. So let me take you through what are the changes. In the POB, you will see that I have reworked the entire notes sections. This time, mainly still for the campaign, but I focus on giving tips and some information that is necessary as a note for you guys to read only. Otherwise, I have some explanations on different loadouts. So I reworked all the trees, making sure that we have a smooth transition so you know what to do. We have different loadouts. We have pre-Power Siphon Totems from 1 to 32. We have Power Siphon Swap, transition to maps, and we have an early mapping to mid-budget. So mid-budget would be around 10 plus Divine. It should be able to farm pretty much T16 amount of maps. You would make a tons of currency farming on the mid-budget. If you do want to go into a more expensive evasion setups, then you can look to invest in either one of these. If Svalin is not that expensive, I think Svalin is still the superior options. In the end game Doriani setups, 300 plus Divine, you have Mage Blood setup 600 plus Divine. At some point, at some budget, obviously any build can clear all contents, and this is not difference. Like, there's no different here. Like, if you get to this budget, you will be able to clear all contents. You can clear Uber bossings, you can clear T17 maps, farming, no problem at all. So, go back to the leveling sessions. I'm going to talk a little bit on how you can use this, but the main thing here is right after this, I will have a very, very detailed walkthrough, so you guys will have an easier time just imagining things, or if it's your first time playing PoE, right? So you would choose the loadout here, pre-Power Siphon Totems, and then you would read a little bit on the note, but otherwise go on the trees. In here, I have details out the progression steps, so we have different checkpoint on after which quest you're gonna get which gem. So on each of these, you can click on the skill itself to see the link, but you can also know where that you are going to get these gems, because it can be a little bit confusing for the newer player. So just go through this step by steps, and then we have from 1 to Act 3, and in the Power Siphon Swap, we'll have from Act 3 on, when you unlock the library, you can start swapping to the Power Siphon setup after you clear the lab at level 32 and then continue on. On the tree itself, when you choose one of these loadout, it will take you to the trees by the end of whenever you get to the end of the tree. So from 1 to 32, this is going to be the pre-Power Siphon Totems. If you want to know the step-by-step progressions, you would choose this here, and then you go down here, and then it would have the step-by-step 1 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 25, 25 to 32, you get the idea. And it is the same for Power Siphon Swap as well. You would click on this, you see the end game trees at level 65 by the end of the campaign. You can slowly go through. We have a small respec when we swap to Power Siphon Totems at level 32, so you can kind of see here, just pick in between to kind of see what point I change, and this is also reflected in the notes section as well. Respec is not going to be an issue because we'll have Baltus in the games, and Pink Smart we can respec with gold. And so yeah, you get the idea, just go step by steps, and once you are done with the campaign, pick one of these, transition to maps. I have also made this a lot more SSF friendly, so not a lot of unique items. Piscator Virtual you can replace with a really good flat damage one, no issues here. Malachi loops, you can use the shields, just any random shield should work. It's just going to have a little bit less damage than this, but very respectable damage on just essentially just gear, right? One thing I want to point out though, before I forget, is that because we are using Power Siphon in most of our setups, so early mappings and transition to map, we are using Power Siphon. And the mid-budget, we are swapping to Power Siphon of the Archmage, and you can kind of see here that we go up to 13 million DPS, which very good for farming pretty much any content. In the early mapping setups or in the transition map to map, you want to be aware of how many power charge you have, right? So totems does not get our power charge, so which means that we have to have it on us, and that means we want to have minimum power charge. So you can get it on items. Malachi loops give you 2 maximum power charge. You get 1 min charge from here, and you get 1 min charge on your ring as well as a craft. These are no longer betrayal only jewelry. I think this league they are going to drop just from mapping, so you will probably have this recipe unlocked very soon, and once you have it, you can definitely put it on your ring. But other than that, yeah, let's go into the detailed leveling guide. I made this whole leveling session is for the beginners and newer players that are not sure on how to league start with this build, or it's your first time playing PoE 1. If you are an experienced player, you can probably just follow PoE, ask me any questions if needed. I will also go over some of the transitions to maps and the mid-budget version of the PoE right after this, so if you are not interested in this leveling section, feel free to skip ahead. We will be leveling with rolling magma, and you are getting these gems right after killing Hierophants at the gates. In PoE 1, you have items with link, so the most important thing always is to use a reject, paste it into the chat like this. Then it will highlight items that you might want in the build, mainly 3 link, blue, reds, and stuff like that. So just check out the gem links and find the correct items. Before continuing further with the campaign, I would definitely recommend you guys to check out the Exile leveling tool. This is a great tool for you if you are not familiar with the PoE 1 campaign in general. It will have a step-by-step details on what to take, what route to take, and it's very optimal. Just make sure you go into the build, check out on league start, so it will point you in the right directions, and then you can go through this step by steps, and it will help a lot. Even if you are an experienced player, sometimes you kind of forget on what to do. So if you really want to get through the campaign very fast, this is going to be the premium tool that I recommend you guys to use, and it's completely free. Right, so continue on. After breaking some egg quests and finishing Helldrake, you are going back to town, and you are going to grab the Arcane Surge as a quest reward from Nessa, and you will buy a Flame Wall from her. Then you will be getting the Holy Flame Totems and Frost Link from Tapley. And Holy Flame Totems will be your alternative DPSing skills, and Frost Blink is going to be your main movement skill for now until you get Shield Charge. At this point, start looking for shields so you can get Shield Charge and use it later. Some small DPS tips in the early games: you can use Flame Wall to help you boost your DPS, so your Holy Flame Totems can shoot through wall. Your Rolling Magma can also go through the Flame Wall and do some extra damage, so make sure you do that combo if you're fighting tough enemies. After finishing the boss, go back and talk to Nessa to get Combustion. It's going to be your third link to Rolling Magma. And then you can also buy Shield Charge from Nessa right now if you have a shield equipped. With Shield Charge equipped, you are going to go through the campaign a lot faster. For the Brutus fight, make sure that you are using the same combo, Rolling Magma through Flame Wall into Holy Flame Totems to do some extra damage. And then after Brutus, we are going to get Vitality, or optionally you can do Clarity as well, but I prefer Vitality since it helps you a bit more tanky for laps a little bit later. With this particular setups, you should not have any issues with the Act 1 boss. If you can pick up an early Sapphire Rings and a Ghost Horn, it's probably one of the best early game weapons. It adds damage to your spell. Just flat damage is really good early games. It's going to help this fight a lot. Moving on to Act 2, after the Fidelitas fight, we are going to get Herald of Thunder from Gruz, and we are going to buy a Herald Ice from Yina. It is optional, mainly because Herald Ice also reserve even more of your mana, which means that you have to manage your mana a little bit, and it can get annoying. After the fight with the Weaver, we are going back and try to buy the Wave of Convictions from Yina if you have the currency for it. Wave of Convictions will put the exposure debuff on the enemy, which means that you can do more fire damage, given that the highest damage from the Wave of Conviction is fire. Skipping ahead to Act 3, we are going to get flammability from Maramoa after you fight Piety and Free Atonement. And then you can also buy Anger from Polarisar as well if you have one Alteration Orb. We will be using Anger on Act, Boss, and in Labs. Around level 28, you'll be fighting General Gravicius, and after this fight, you can get Armageddon Bren. And this is going to help you do a lot more damage. So this skill, you're just going to completely replace Rolling Magma, and we are going to spec into Rune Biter on the passive skill trees. So at this point, we are very close to the swap, and by this time, you should be able to head to the library, and it's very important in a Lickstad scenario to clear the library, because in here you will be able to buy all the gems that you need to make the swap to power Siphon. So talk to CO Saturn in the quest, get Arrogant support for the Precision Aura later, but mainly on the first go through the library, you want to pick up Power Siphon Link, so get Power Siphon and Ballista Totem at the very least. You want to level them up ahead of time so that when you make the switch later after lab, your gems will at least have some level so it will do damage instead of doing 0 damage. So you want to put the gems in your gears. You also can put gems in your offhands, in your second weapon swaps, and it will still gain the level. So just buy whatever gems that you can buy at this point. Before the swap, you also want to prepare your weapons or your wand for the Power Siphon. At this point in the game, the best base for Power Siphon is going to be Spiral 1 because you have added lightning damage to your attack. And you can use the vendor recipe that I put in the POB, or if you are able to find Essence of Woe or Essence of Fear, you can also use that to craft your wand. The goal is going to be creating a wand with percentage spell damage because it scales with Power Siphon. Whenever you see flat damage added on the wand, it is going to be very, very good for our build. So this is going to be the one that I'm going to be using. Flat damage to the spell, you cannot use it because we are using an attack. But spell damage, percent increase in spell damage will work because it's part of the gems, Power Siphon gem descriptions. Alternatively, you can use this vendor recipe right here, a magic Spiral 1 magic Chain Bow and 1 Whetstone, and you will be able to get back the Spiral 1 with percentage increased spell damage, and you can use it as a backup options in case you don't get any better gear. The next big checkpoint in the campaign is when you do your first lap, get your first Ascendancy point, and swap to Power Siphon. At this point, we are still using the Armor brand setup to finish the lap, and after you get your first Ascendancy point and you get Conviction of Power, which is going to give you 4 minimum power charge and 4 endurance charge, you are ready to swap into Power Siphon. With this setup, you should be able to do a lot of damage to the boss. You are going to swap your aura to the Anger and Vitality aura, so drop Arrow of Thunder. We are going to be using Flammability Curse to curse the boss, and then we are going to use Wave of Conviction as well to put exposure on the boss, and then you can spam your brand skill. I think the boss still do a lot of damage at this point, so make sure that you use your skills and then you move around, just don't tank the boss ability, because depending on his weapon, sometimes he can actually have ability that can one-shot you. Alright, so we are skipping ahead to the end of the labs where you have Divine Font. In here, you have 2 options. The first one is to transform gems, which you can use to make currency. If you bring a red skill gems, you have potential to turn that into maybe Volcanic Fissure of Snacking, which you can sell for money. I'm just going to use the second option, which is going to be the add 3% quality to the gems, and I'm going to add quality to my Power Siphon gems. Adding quality to the Power Siphon gems give you more crit multi per charge, and I'm going to do the same thing in Pro and Merc Lab as well, just so I can have a little bit more damage. So let's actually talk about the swap. After you ascend to Hierophant and you spec into Conviction of Power, you are going to get minimum power charge and minimum endurance charge. And this means you can swap into Power Siphon, which will require you to do some respec on the skill trees. The practice run I'm doing right now is in Standard, which means that there's no Faltus or the King's March guy here. But if it's in 3.26, I believe they would be here, so you would go to King's March and you would spend your gold to respec. But for now, I'm just going to simulate that by using the Orb of Regret. You would need about 10 refund points to respec out of this current tree. If you have play in 3.25, gold to respec in the early game is pretty cheap, so you should be able to do it. And now you also respec out of the Templar starting area as well, and you should have 10 points to put into the Power Siphon tree. Ancestral Bond give you 1 extra maximum totem, so make sure you get that, and then you should just follow the pathing on the skill trees in the PoB, and you should be good to go. Remember to make another trip to the library, and I want to show you something as well, so that if you don't have a perfect red, blue, blue, red, there is an alternative options of added cold damage as your 4th link. You don't get a lot of 4 link at this point in the game, so whenever you picked up a 4 link, just make sure that you pick it up and see if you can fit in your Power Siphon link. It will give you a lot of damage. Having an extra link in a skill gem setup will help you do a lot more damage, at least in PoE 1, so it's very important. And for the rest of skill gems, just set it up like I mentioned in the PoB. We will have arrogant setups with precisions. All in all, have your gem setups, level them up. Precision, you can keep them at level 8 or 9, so you don't have to be level them later when you are in this map, because we want to keep our reserve life to be above 10%, but more on that later. Move on to Act 4. After the fight with the Act boss Malachite, we are going to get the last gems from the campaign setup, which is going to be Summon Lightning Golem from Oyun as a quest reward. The Golem is pretty tanky in the early games, just make sure you level them up and it should give you some extra damage, and you can have faster shield charge as well. Throughout the campaigns, especially toward the later part of the campaign, you want to pick up all the wands off the ground that have good base. By good base, I mean the ones that have increased spell damage, one that give crits, give attack speed, so pretty much anything that Power Siphon can actually use. And for example, this one right here adds a lot of flat damage, but if you are not sure which one is good or bad, just straight up use the tooltips to check out the damage increase. So for example, right now my tooltip is 1300. Just put this one in, you can see it go up to almost 2k, so that's a massive increase. And this one stay roughly the same, so obviously this one with more flat damage is going to be the upgrades. When you are in Act 6, you are going to talk to Louis Roth and you are going to clear the Twilight Strand. The reward for clearing Twilight Strand is that Louis Roth will now be able to sell you all the gems in the games that is buyable from vendor, which means that you can complete your setups right now after this without going to the library. And you can buy Purity of Elements and Eternal Blessings. I opted to not use Purity of Elements too early because Clarity at this point is still pretty useful, especially that we are using Arcane Cloak and we don't really have good mana regen at this point. But if you want to use Purity of Elements, you can. Otherwise, I would suggest to use them at the start of Act 8. Generally, at this point in the game, I am about to finish with Act 8 and I'm on level 60 right now. I still don't have a Piscator. And this is my current setups. At this point, having a Piscator is going to help you do a lot more damage. I'm still using a Ray one, but you can kind of see here that at this point, I'm still going to destroy this boss just because the skill is just really strong early game. But if you are able to afford a Piscator at this point, you will have so much more damage. And at this point, the only way for you to make money is by either doing low level contracts for heist. I just find it boring, so I don't do it. It is, however, probably the best way. I'm going to show you my way though, is that whenever I'm farming Chaos Recipe, I'll do it in the Blood Aqueduct, and because this Blood Aqueduct area will have the eye level of the zone is level 61. The monster level is 61, so they would drop higher than level 60 items. And if you are selling un-ID gray items from level 60 to 74, you are going to, if you're selling a full set of like 2 rings, a belt, weapons, glove, boots, body armor and helmet, you are going to get back 2 chaos. And usually Piscator for like day 1 very early in the league, you can usually buy it for 5 chaos. So my goal is to get to 5 chaos, which at this point I just need about 1 set of chaos recipe. Unless I'm really unlucky, farming Blood Aqueduct for about 3 to 5 run should be able to get me the items that I want. And in this area is also a pretty good area for you to catch up in level as well. And I'm a bit over level in the campaign because again, totem build is actually pretty good when you just running through the campaign, because you just put down your totems and your totems will actually stay and kill most of the monster, which means that you also gain level pretty well throughout the campaign, so you never feel really weak. The way you keep farming an area is you're going to, for example, go into High Gate, and before you zone into Blood Aqueduct, you are going to hold Control and left click. This will allow you to open Blood Aqueduct in a brand new instance, and this means that all the monster in this zone is reset, so you can just go through the whole map again. And since this is a pretty linear layout and pretty easy to farm, I find myself having more fun running Blood Aqueducts than running the low-level demolition contracts. After running Blood Aqueduct for a few times, I got to level 64, and if you're selling a full set of the unidentified rare items, make sure they are above level 60 and make sure they are un-ID, because if you are IDing these items, they only worth 1 Chaos Orb. So this is one of the best way to make or farm Chaos Orb in the early game. Even in early mapping, you would be picking up sets of items as well to make the rare items. And usually you just want to pick up all the jewelry, because that's probably the harder part of the chaos recipe. With that being said, the rest of the campaign should be relatively pretty easy at this point. I'm just going to quickly showcase the Act 9 boss, and then we are going to clear the Merc Lab before we clear Kitava. With this build, you should have enough damage to clear Merc Lab even without Piscator. You just need a pretty good flat damage on your 1, so just make sure you picked up all the 1. Your third ascendancy is going to be Ritual of Awakening, and this one is extremely powerful, and it should help you go straight into map after Kitava. Because I'm a little bit over level at this point and I have Piscator, man, Kitava is just a joke. So yeah, I'm level 69. I have roughly about 100k damage at this point, and you can kind of see Kitava just keep getting insta-face. This is the stats. So after you finish the campaign, you should type passive to see if you're missing any points. The last point is from this boss, so if you turn in the quest, it's fine. I have about 4 deaths and my total playtime is 7 hours. The practice runs, I did it in 4 hours. I think this run I was recording and I was doing some random stuff, so it actually takes 3 extra hours. But the whole setup itself is actually pretty strong. With that, good luck to your campaigns, and we are going to talk a little bit about transitioning into maps. I think the video is quite long already, but I want to talk about after the campaign. So for example, you can kind of see here, this is the end of the campaign, and we are still having point in spiritual aid and some of this point here. After the campaign, transitioning into map, you are going to do a little bit of respect. And the noteworthy points I want to point out is if your totems is dying, usually it's not a problem. If you're doing white maps, you can put point into Primo Manifestation so your totems stay alive a little bit more. We are going to spec into Agnostic because it will help us sustain our life in the early games. This is a very strong note as well, even though it's getting nerfed. So we'll see the numbers in when the POBs release their updates. Otherwise, you also want to have a life mastery that says you count as full life while at 90% of maximum life or above, and we are running agnostic, so which means that it's very important for you to have your precision and arrogance aura set up so that you are not reserving more than 10% of your own life. So if I have more life, which means I can have higher level of precisions because it reserves a flat amount. So if it goes to, say, 89, then your mana will constantly get drained to 0. So if you run into that problem, you know that your level of precision is too high. In the transition gears, I don't really put any unique items. This is extremely cheap. And Piscator Virtuals is part of the core unique just because it's so good. When you have enough money, your next priority is going to be getting Mind of the Council and Malachi's Loop as well. I talked a bit about it before, but Malachi's Loop is going to give you 2 maximum power charge, and you can get 1 min charge on your ring here, and 1 on the Disciple of the Forbidden. Later on, if you have like +1 power charge corruptions on Mind of the Council, you can run like with minimums of 7 power charge, but it's not really necessarily because we already get so much crit chance, which means that it's just a wasted stat. For the skill gems, your 4-link setups is going to be with the same with the campaign setups, but if you have a 5-link, we are adding Pierce into our setups because Pierce is just very important for mapping. And because we are going from right now at this point, your skill gems, you don't have a 6-link, but eventually for early mapping setups, we will be running Pierce from Impossible Escapes. Depending on the price, it might be expensive. Then we can look into anointing the Pierce node as well instead of Watchtower, but we lose the totems and we just lose a lot of damage. Other than that, we are running the Agnostic from Dance of the Offer, which means that we don't need Agnostic on the tree here as well, but otherwise all the setups are pretty much the same. Power Siphon just give us a lot of power in the early games from the free crit multi and crit chance. And eventually in the mid-budget setups, we are going to transition into Power Siphon of the Archmage. And in this setups itself, we're crafting a new wands, we are getting new rings and just upgrade our gears in general, and you can easily get rich 10 million DPS with the setups. And this mid-budget setup should be able to solve anything, tackling all the farm contents of pretty much first week. And after that, I'm thinking of either re-rolling into another build, maybe try out some of the new gems. Some of these expensive setups just for extra tankiness, I don't think it is that much worth it for the totem build. If you really want to do like extra damage setups, you would probably save up for the Doriani setup, which is going to improve your damage by a lot because we are leveraging unconditional damage. So we don't use arcane cloak setups in here, and it's just unconditional damage. It's a lot better. And even mage bus setups as well, but that's probably not something that I want to do right now because it's just league start. So I'll do a daily update for this build as well. So if you're following this build, yes, I will be playing this build at league start. So maybe you can put in a practice run here and there, but I think that will be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck to you if you are league starting with this build.